Congressman Aderholt is with. Go ahead. Yeah. Good morning, Congressman.
Hey, good morning.
How are you?
Good morning.
I'm doing well. How's things in Alabama today?
Pretty good.
You just need to learn to speak with a British accent there, Congressman.
Right.
I came in right at the end of it. I'm sorry I missed it. I felt like it was a good segment. Yeah, it's well, everything's pretty well here in Washington. It's we always have our problems up here. It's a rainy morning here in Washington, but we're I'm at the Capitol this morning, getting ready to get to work on some issues. We had a long night last night with the Budget Committee. We, of course, the Democrats' budget passed, and we, of course, it was pretty much along a party line vote. Last night we finished up the committee. Finished its work just shortly before midnight last night.
Oh, you've got to be tired.
Well, it's I'm doing okay right now. Maybe later this afternoon it might hit me, but I'm doing good right now. But
$3.6 trillion. It's going to pass?
Well, from the evidence that we saw yesterday in committee, we started yesterday morning at 10:30, and like I said, we wrapped up just shortly before midnight last night. There was not a single Republican that voted for the Obama budget or the Democrat budget. The concern that so many of us have of Republicans is the concern that it spends too much, that it taxes too much, and then of course it borrows too much. And the Republicans will be putting forth a better solution this week, and we'll be getting something that we will have the floor to be an alternative when this budget comes to the House floor for a full vote of the House of Representatives.
Are any of the Blue Dogs standing with you?
No, and unfortunately not. Now, again, last night it was just the committee, so just on the Budget Committee, so you only have a handful of Blue Dogs that are on the Budget Committee. Right. So there may be some that will stand with us as we get closer, and I think there may be some. And that may be the case. I don't know what the ones in Alabama, where they stand on this, but it's certainly last night in the committee when nobody from Alabama is on the committee, so I can't speak for them. But the ones last night that as we were voting in the committee, we adopted some amendments, or I say we adopted some amendments. We put forth some amendments that the Blue Dogs actually supported back just the last year or so, and then but they voted against them in committee. So, but again, we're going to have the alternative, and we think the alternative will do a better job in trying to be a better solution to than the president's budget has been. And
well, here's the question, Congressman. I'm sure you're aware of some of the tea parties that are going on across the nation. We have two of them that are going on here, one in Decatur, one in Huntsville, that we know about, and they had some in South Alabama, and Nashville, and around. But what can people do? I mean, people are calling their congressmen. People are, emailing and faxing. But what can Americans do to stop this stuff before we just totally go down the drain?
Well, again, I know, and you exactly said the right thing as far as calling and contacting the congressman. And sometimes I can tell you that sometimes that is. People say, what good is my call going to do? But I can guarantee you that if you get one or two calls about an issue, it's one thing. If you are inundated with calls about an issue, it's a completely different thing for members of Congress to hear. So I tell you that is to your phone call, maybe just one phone call, but you put that with your neighbor's phone call and your coworker's phone call, and it really resonates here in Congress because Congress. In the House of Representatives, we try to do what our constituents want us to do. And we realize that we're up for a re-election every 2 years. And so a lot of times when you see members of Congress voting in such a way that is not consistent with how many people believe, it's just not heard from the constituency. So I'm one of those people who I would encourage you to call your member of Congress, regardless of what district you're in, and say, I want to just put my support behind this issue or that issue, and we feel like we're spending too much, we're borrowing too much, we're just the spending is getting out of hand, and we need to do some things, especially concerning bailouts. But that's why that bailout bill, when last fall failed initially, is because the Congress was getting inundated with phone calls.
Does it help to call other Congress people?
Well, I think it helps. I think mainly I would call my own member of Congress, but you've got, of course, two senators. Senator Sessions and Senator Shelby have been, supportive of the trying to cut down on the spending and cut down on the borrowing. So, but at the same time, they need encouragement. They need to say, thank you for standing on that issue. And
well, now Shelby voted for the $410 billion.
Yeah, well, that was the appropriation bill,
yeah.
And which is, of course, he sits on the appropriations committee, and that.
Can you say catfish?
Well, I will say in defense of Senator Shelby on that was I voted for it against it because I thought the procedure was done very poorly and not allowing the hearings in the House side. But the appropriation, as far as a lot of that was just spending to keep the government open, and so I've worked on that committee as well myself. So. But it was all the other spending that went along with it. Unfortunately, the timing of it was at a bad timing. But the bailouts and all the stimulus, that's where the real problem is. And so that's why I think that's where people need to hear from where members of Congress need to hear from their constituents.
Well, it's, Parker Griffith. We haven't heard from him yet whether or not he's going to vote for it. He did not vote for the stimulus, but, they were going to pass it anyway.
Yeah.
But if the entire Blue Dog Coalition, the 48 members, if they actually did what they're supposed to do and voted more conservatively, some of this stuff wouldn't pass.
Oh, absolutely. And let me just say, that I'm a Republican, Parker Griffith's a Democrat, but I applaud his vote on that stimulus because I can tell you that was not an easy vote for him to take, and for those who live in the 5th District, I would encourage you to call him and thank him for that vote on the stimulus because I can tell you he's getting a lot of pressure here in Washington that he should have voted for the stimulus and should have voted for his leadership and should have voted for his party. So
there are ads running right now too in a lot of the states, commercials running against these Blue Dogs, saying that they better vote for this $3.6 trillion.
Yeah, and also, too, you've got to remember, a lot of these interest groups, it's not just the Democrat Party, but a lot of these interest groups are coming out and trying to put pressure on people like Parker Griffith and Bobby Bright, who are both in Alabama and different parts of the country. And so, again, it's important to call and say when this bill comes up, but I would encourage people to call and just say thank you for your vote against the stimulus. And just because that gives him the encouragement when that next vote comes up, that he has encouragement that says, I did the right thing last time, and my constituents appreciated it.
I have one other question for you. Are you familiar, Congressman, with this bill? Let's see, it's HB 1388, and it's the one for the GIVE Act. Are you familiar with it?
Tell me a little bit more about it.
It's back during the campaign, President Obama talked about having volunteers that would go do community service, and especially kids who,
Youth Corps.
Yeah, the Youth Corps. If they were to get the Pell Grant, then they would have to do X amount of community service.
Right, I remember discussions about it, yes.
Well, this has actually passed the House. From what I understand, has passed the House day before yesterday. It's HB 1388, and there's some very troubling things inside that bill that talk about how that it's going to be a mandatory situation, and that high schoolers could if they decide they want Pell Grants, could actually have to serve in this Corps. And then it has some other provisions in there where if they do accept this Pell Grant money, as you know, a lot of people have to get Pell Grants, a lot of kids. Then it goes on to talk about how if you get this and you're in this Corps, that you can't talk about your religion. Some are saying you can't even go to church.
No, that's ridiculous. That and something like that should never be included. And hopefully, if some language did slip in there like that when it goes before the Senate and the conference between the House and Senate, that can be removed. But unfortunately, right now, in the House of Representatives, how we're different from the Senate is, they have the votes to push the legislation through, whereas in the Senate is a little bit more divided. But right now, the rules, when they agree to the rules package on the House of Representatives side, since the Democrats that legislation, what we'll need to do is try to make sure that we hold it up in the Senate or when it goes to the conference between the House and the Senate to make sure we object to it. So I appreciate you calling my attention to it. My office will look into that and see what the issue is there and how such a language could have got slipped in the bill.
Yeah, because I was just looking here. Yeah, it passed the House by a vote of 321 to 105, and it's known as the GIVE Act, the Generations Invigorating Volunteerism and Education Act.
Yeah, and I voted against. I voted against it, but that language still should have never been in there, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I think if other members of Congress realized what the was in that package, then that there's some language was slipped in like that to say that you can't talk about your faith or that's just totally ridiculous, because this is something that we pride ourselves in this country, that we're a nation that believes in freedom of religion and freedom of speech, and
it doesn't look like that could be constitutional, does it?
Well, it doesn't seem to me, and I don't know where they're trying to base this language, but like I said, I voted against the legislation. I think the bill had a lot of problems with it, but I can't see how even somebody who could even support some of the things were in the bill could say that not allowing a person to speak about their faith or would be monitored as far as their attendance in church or something like that is completely ridiculous, and I don't think it will hold up at the end of the day.
Congressman, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us. Will you keep us up to date on what's going on?
We will, and thank you for having me on. And like I said, we're in the midst of at this time of year sort of a real busy time for Congress because of the budget coming up, and of course, as everything else, we've got the cloud hanging over us with the economy, and trying to do things to try to mitigate the problems that we have out there across the country, but. Anyway, we'll keep up the good fight, and thank you for your work and for calling attention to these. And again, I encourage your listeners to call their member of Congress where they live in the 4th District that I represent, or the 5th District that Parker Griffith represents. And, we love to hear from you, love to know if we're doing a good job or if we're not.
Thank you, Congressman.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
And as he said, you know what? It helps. It helps a lot. Send Congressman Aderholt an email and to his office and just say, thank you guys for what you're doing. Parker Griffith, he did vote against a stimulus. Say thank you for doing that. Keep on voting no. It helps.
Mm-hmm.
All right.